Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our webinar entitled Understanding Your Cash Flow. I'm Gavin McGahey, and I'm the Managing Director of Planning Plus Software. So we'd like to welcome along, we've got some of my clients on board here, which will be great to see. We've also got clients from, or people from other industries that are joining the webinar as well. We offer this around to as many people as possible to just try and, as we say, share the love nowadays in this current environment. It's all about what can we share, what tools can we share, how can we learn from each other, and what can we take in these most difficult times. And our intention here from Planning Plus is to interact with our clients and with the public in general, and bring people on together to say, let's share this information and learn something from each other. We don't know how long we're in it for, and we don't know what the outcome of it's going to be. So we need to stay focused in the present and really just concern ourselves with what we're doing and what we can do for our business and our people and our team and family, etc. So today, I'm really lucky to be joined by a co-host by the name of Ben Fewtrell. Now, Ben's a panel beater by trade, so he hasn't been too affected by the thinners in the industry, because I'm a panel beater by trade as well. And he turned his hand to business coaching some 19 years ago. So together with his team, they've helped dozens of collision repair shop owners build a more profitable business. But he not only works with body shop owners, he's got a mixed portfolio of clients that he's helped generate more profit in their business, build culture, teams, systems, process, etc. So today he's going to be helping you to understand how to manage your cash flow over these coming few months. And that's why we sent everyone out the link to the cash flow tool, and Ben will walk us through that tool and also some of the things about the government stimulus and the information he's been feeding back to his clients on the government stimulus and the impact of that government stimulus. So we want to keep these webinars rolling. We're going to record this webinar and we're going to send that out to all our participants as well. So I'd like to introduce Ben Fewtrell and hand over the reins to Ben to walk you through our Understanding Your Cash Flow.
Thank you very much, Gavin. First of all, I want to say good on you, mate, for putting these webinars on. I think right now, the business community, no matter what industry you're in, needs to have this sort of environment and this community to be able to help. Because together, I don't know if you've heard that saying, nothing great was ever achieved alone. And I'm so, to me, that's one of the things that I think is so true, is nothing great was ever achieved alone. And if you're going to get through this, which everyone's going to have to, it's about how you come out the other end, right? So it's all about getting out the other end and being a better business. And so good on you, mate, for putting these on. I really do appreciate you having me on as a guest as well. G'day to everybody who's just joined. If you have a question at all during today's webinar, by the way, you'll see in your Zoom control panel, there's like a chat and a Q&A. So you can either use the chat box or the Q&A. Best to use the Q&A if you've got a question. Just that interface works better for us as hosts to be able to see your questions and then make sure we get to everybody's questions. So as you've got questions throughout the day, do that. Just so I know that you know where the Q&A box is, just pop in there where you're located and what the weather's like, and what business you're in, just to give us a bit of a feel for where you are and what your weather's like and what business you're in. Just pop it in as a question for me in the Q&A box. That way you can find it. Get your fingers typing away. What's the weather like where you are, Gavin?
We've got a fairly sunny day today up here, a little bit of breeze around, but probably about 27 degrees, I'd imagine. It's going to be great cycling weather for the Lycra around about 5 p.m. today, I'd say, Ben.
Yeah, nice. Well, I don't wear Lycra at all. I might put a wetsuit on sometimes. But we're a bit cloudy here in Sydney. I think it's going to start raining. Good stuff. So we've got Mark. Oh, g'day, Mark. How you going? Brisbane. Sunny. And he's in education. Louise from Auckland, lovely and sunny. Euro Patent Panel, g'day Louise. Oh, g'day Rod and Carol, Wyber, mid-north coast of New South Wales in healthcare. Tim, Brisbane, fine and sunny, g'day Tim. Some familiar names here from where I shared it on my Facebook page. Jason from Rhino Crash. G'day, mate, from Adelaide. Great day here as always. That's bragging, isn't it? Melissa, fairly sunny, bit of a breeze and ready also for the Lycra. Good on you, Mel. Tumby. Trent, Smash Repairs, Tweed Heads. G'day, Trent. And then a couple of people using the chat box there. Mariana, Welland, Crash Repairs. Stay safe. We are all trying to do that, aren't we? Dario from Adelaide as well, and Diane from New
Syracuse.
York. Welcome.
Yeah. Welcome, Diane. It's great to see you on board. Diane's one of our clients over there in Syracuse in upstate New York. And as Diane well knows, I used to say Syracuse until she corrected me. I was all over that until she got me pronouncing it right, Syracuse. So good on you, Diane. Thanks very much for joining us.
Yeah. So I'm just going through now. Now that you know how to use the question box, I'm just cleaning up the question box. Brenton and Ben from Victor Harbour, how you going? Glennon
Neroli. Can you get your head around that one there, Ben? Waipakarau.
Waipakarau. I love these ones that challenge me. Excellent, fantastic. Alrighty, let's get stuck into it. So one of the key things that's been happening over the last couple of weeks in particular in my business is I'm getting a lot of people ask me about government's stimulus packages. So I could just stop sharing your screen, Gavin, if we can.
Yep.
And I'm going to share mine quickly. Because what I want to help you with is understanding what is available from a, let me just get this up and running. There we go. From a stimulus point of view. And one of the challenges I think for many people right now is just knowing what is available. So I'm not going to go into a lot of detail. If you want more detail about what's available, talk to your accountant, or you can head across to the Max My Profit Facebook page. There was a live stream done with an accountant friend of mine about a week ago that goes into great depth as to each of them. But what you can do, you can see on the screen right now that I've shared with you, this is treasury.gov.au coronavirus/businesses. I'm just going to copy and paste that link in for you so you can let me just share this with you. Get this happening in the chat, sorry, not in there. I want to put it into the chat box. There we go. And I'm going to share it with everybody. So that's going to come through to you in your chat, in the chat box. You probably see a chat just pop up now. So you can copy and paste that link so you can go back to that a bit later and check that out. But as you can see inside here, there's all the different things that they've announced for the stimulus package. So JobKeeper payment was the latest one, cashflow support, temporary relief, increasing instant asset write-off, backing business investment, supporting apprentices and trainees. Okay, and then over here, you can see there's some more information as well. So supporting the flow of credit and the coronavirus SME guarantee scheme. So that's the loan. So they're the other sort of things they announced in a sort of separate area. But the main things that, so everyone is pretty much, if you've got employees, you're going to qualify for what they call in the business boost, which is this cash flow support for small business. And it's called boosting cash flow for employers. So you're pretty much all going to qualify for that if you employ people. If you withhold any tax, or even if you employ people that don't qualify for tax because they're under the tax threshold, so they're in the tax-free bracket, you can still get a minimum of $10,000 paid to you. Okay, and so this is, and that payment is automatic. The challenge with everything else is making sure you stay on top of it because they're all things that you've got to apply for. So you've got to make sure that you understand which ones are automatic and which ones you've got to apply for. So the JobKeeper payment is the $1,500 per fortnight per employee. That you can apply for if you think, now a lot of people are confused about this one, so I'll just quickly cover this one off, Gav. But they released that if you have a reduction in your revenue from the same period last year, and they're using the BAS lodgement as the turnover indicator. So if the BAS that you lodged for March period last year and this year you had a 30% differential, that is that this year was 30% lower, they're saying that you qualify. What some people were saying, but my business grew last year and now I'm still taking a 30% dive. So they've now said that you can, as long as you can show you've had a 30% drop in business, even if it's from the last couple of months to now, and you can substantiate it, that you can still get it. And you'll see if you go into this JobKeeper payment area here, you'll see the latest update was actually done on Sunday, the 5th of April, which was just the Sunday just gone. And that's when they changed it. They made that change. They also changed it to say that it is up to the discretion of the tax commissioner. And they also changed it to say that if you said you were going to have a 30% drop and it didn't quite make 30%, but you had 20 something percent and they thought that was okay, that they're going to let you get away with that. Okay. I would just approach it with caution. If you say you're going to have a 30% drop and you claim the money for 6 months, and let's say you've got 20 employees that you're getting $1,500 a fortnight for, well, that's $3,000 times 20. That's $60,000 a month. Obviously, you're going to rack up a bit of a bill over 6 months. That's 120 for 2 months, 240. So you're looking at about 360 that you'd have to pay back if they deem that you didn't have enough of a drop. So make sure that no matter what size business you are, that you are certain that you're going to have that 30% drop, and approach it with caution. All right. I think it's great. A lot of people have rung me this week saying, do I stand down my employees or do I take this payment? My thinking is this: if you can negotiate with your current employees to go down to 80 or 60% working, so 4 or 3 days, and then you can get the JobKeeper payment, it's much better for you to keep your employees in a job than it is to try and re-recruit a whole bunch of people at the end. So that's the JobKeeper one. And then you've got some other things that they've done. For example, there's temporary relief, so people can't wind your business up as easy as they used to be able to. The instant asset write-off, this is a big one if you were going to buy equipment anyway, or if you have a lot of profit this financial year that you want to get rid of. They've increased the instant asset write-off from 30,000 up to 150,000. And what this means is that you can, rather than having to depreciate a big piece of equipment over several years, you can get the instant asset write-over, which means it reduces your next year's tax bill. So a really big benefit for you there, only if you were going to buy something. The other thing they did was they've increased the company size from 50 million to 500 million. So, this applies now for bigger businesses. And that was done not so much because the big businesses really, they need as much help as they can get as well, I guess. But what they wanted to do was encourage the bigger businesses to buy equipment from smaller businesses. So hopefully that is what is happening. I'm hearing of some businesses really are booming. And then you can see that this is a big one for the collision repair industry or any trade type back industry, is that if you have apprentices or trainees, that the government will pay up to 50% of their wage per quarter, up to $7,000. And so you need to understand how you're going to get that, or if you're going to get that, and how to put that into your business. So there is a lot of different things available to you. If we have a look on the right-hand side over here, supporting the cash flow for credit, as you can see there, is the unsecured loans that are 50% guaranteed by the government. So this means that you do not need to secure the loan, a business loan, with any assets. And the guarantee of the loan will be taken 50% by the government. I'm assuming as a director of the company, you're going to have to take the other 50%, but at least that gives you some comfort. There's also a 6-month repayment holiday on those loans. And if you go to the bank that you normally bank with to apply for the loan, they can actually give you an exemption or they have an exemption from responsible lending criteria that they normally have to adhere to, that makes lending quite arduous for a small business. So, if you do need cash flow, this is a great option. I'm not a big fan of borrowing money to get out of financial strife if business is on a downturn, but this is probably a bit unique. What they're really encouraging people to do is to take a line of credit, and they're encouraging the banks to provide lines of credit. That means that you do not take the loan until you need it. So you set it up so it's available, but you only draw it down and you only pay for it when you have it. Even though it's a 6-month holiday, interest will accrue as soon as you have it. So I've had somebody ask a question about does New Zealand have similar stimulus? I'm not across what's going on in New Zealand, to be honest with you, but I'm sure they would have something. You'd have to double check on the New Zealand website to see what was available. So hopefully they do.
I was just going to mention there, Ben, that we've got some of our lovely Kiwi friends and clients online today. So maybe you could just put into the question and answer if there are things that are happening for you, and if you're happy with those things. And I know in America, Diane over there, you've got, I don't know what your interesting government's up to, but we're all here. We're sharing this mainly around AU, as we're aware, but I know New Zealand are getting looked after pretty well from what I've been told by some of our clients.
Yeah, okay. And so what I will do that's probably more important is show you how to take the stimulus that is available and use that in a cash flow projection for your business. So it doesn't matter where you are in the world, you'll all benefit from understanding how to do that. I'll do that in a second. Diane has just said that their stimulus packages in America are very similar. So that's good to hear.
Good to hear, yeah.
And, you know, Mariana has asked about the future months. I'll come back to that when we talk about cash flow forecasting. And Tim has asked with apprentices, which payment is best? We're going to get both, if that's your question. So if we go back to support for businesses here, Tim, if the JobKeeper payment, for you to apply for that, you have to have the 30% reduction in revenue. They're going to backdate it to the 1st of March, I believe, the payments, but they're not going to pay you for a little while. It hasn't even been set up yet. I don't even think the bill has been passed through the cabinet, but it'll be a little while. But you're going to get that if you've had the 30% reduction. The apprentice one, okay, so the down here, the support for apprentices and trainees, you're going to get that no matter what, so long as you keep your trainee or apprentice in a job. And so you can apply for that straight away. And you do have to apply for that through your apprenticeship centre. So you've got to make sure you apply for that. But you can get both of those. You can also apply for there's other things you may be eligible as well. So this is not you can only choose one thing. You can grab multiple things if you need to. So somebody told you one or the other. I believe that. Yeah, look, that maybe I'm not sure. Let me say that you're still going to pay 50% of the apprentice's wage. Maybe if you apply for apprentice's wage, you can't do it. We can certainly do JobKeeper for anybody who's not an apprentice, and you can still do JobKeeper for those that. Sorry, you can do apprentice subsidy for those that are apprentices, and you can do JobKeeper for those that aren't. If your apprentice earns less than $1,500 per fortnight. If the $7,000 is going to be less than $1,500 per fortnight, then maybe you can apply for JobKeeper. I'm not sure how they're going to manage that. But once again, all of this is so brand new. They haven't got the rules in place for it all. But you can definitely, as a business owner, grab both. But I would say you're right. If you've got an apprentice, you can't have both for the apprentice. You can only probably apply for the apprenticeship one for the apprentice, I'd say. That's what I would say. Hopefully that helps you. Once again, check with your accountant for the exact details. So in New Zealand, there is a wage subsidy available for all employers. This is from Louise, for all employers for their employees. Okay, but do not believe there is a cash flow boost package available in NZ. Okay. Yeah, so every place is going to be a bit different, isn't it? Which is making it a bit tougher. But certainly if you're in Australia, that link that I've put in the chat box will give you all the information. The fact sheets are really, really good. I'll quickly open one so you get a feel for how they work. In fact, I'll do the boosting business code. Let's do I'll go back and support for businesses. Let's do this boosting cash flow for employers one, just so I can quickly show you why these are good. It gives you a summary up here of what the benefit is and the stimulus, which is all a little bit confusing. What they've done though, which is good, is they've given you examples. Okay, so Sarah's construction business, Tim's courier run, and then down here is Sarah's construction business on a different, if she does quarterly versus monthly. And then here's an example if you've got more in your activity statement than what was reported, how they do the refund. So they actually give you examples. Okay, so hopefully you can see that example on my screen. I'm not sure if it's still sharing that screen, is it?
Yeah, looks good. Yep.
So that sort of gives you an idea of how that works.
Yeah, that's great information there, and it's the real information.
Yeah, I mean that's for anybody who's in business right now. You need to know what's available, because the next step, which I'm going to show you now, is getting it into something that makes sense for you in your business, right? So this is a cash flow forecasting tool. This is the one that you're able to download. If you didn't get a copy of this, make sure you let us know, and we'll make sure that somebody gets it to you, whether it's me or Gavin. This is a tool that we usually only give our paying clients. And my background is that we have a coaching business. We work with hundreds of businesses in dozens of different industries. And really what we focus is on the things that apply to pretty much every business. And they're the basic fundamentals of whether it's cash management or marketing or sales or systems, etc. And of course, one of the big areas right now that is hitting people hard is this uncertainty about whether or not they have enough money to continue. And this is a challenge, right? And if you think about if you're driving your car and the fuel gauge stopped working, you'd probably be pretty anxious, right? And so the reason for that is because you don't know when the fuel's going to run out. And it's the same thing in your business. The problem with your business, there's a lot more at stake than just having to walk home or catch an Uber home or trying to get a tank of fuel. And so one of the things that I've always made sure we teach our clients first up in the very first 90 days is having a good handle over their financials. And a part of that is cash flow forecasting. Now, this is a tool that is easy to use. I'm going to just, if you've got this tool, then you can open up now and you can sort of go through with me. If not, you can sort of go through and play with it later. You'll see that with this tool, there's blue squares. So you'll see on my screen right now, if I move my mouse around, you can see where these blue squares are. These blue squares are where you put information in, okay? So you only enter the data into the shaded cells. The rest is all automatic. So the week ending is the first thing. So let's put in, what's the week ending this week? The 12th of April, let's put that in there. Something like that. So if I put the 12th of April in there, you can see it automatically puts the dates in for me. So it's already sorted. Now there's instructions over here. I don't know if you can see these instructions on the right. So it says enter your opening bank balance. So what I've got to do is I've got to look at my bank account at the end of the beginning of the week, and I've got to put my bank balance in. Let's say my bank balance is, let's make it $20,000. Then I'll pop that information in there. Actually, I'm going to make it 15,000. So let's say I put my bank balance in. Now this credit limit here is if you have an overdraft or a line of credit available. So it's not if you have a $50,000 limit and it's all used, because that's not available anymore. We only want to know what's available. So if you have 20,000 available, you can put that in there as well. Okay, so we're going to put that in there. Now, you'll see what that does is it generates a graph here that tells us what's going on in this business. That's really important because in this business over the next 90 days, so by the 5th of July, you can see I'm in the red, and I'm in the red by $7,500. Okay, so you can see that's up here, it says 7.5, but the graph tells me that there. But using my line of credit, you can see this green line here, you can see that I still have $12,400 available if I had that line of credit of 20,000 available when I started this quarter. Now, if I didn't have that, if I had nothing, or if I had, say, a $5,000 left on my line of credit, I'm in trouble. Okay, and this graph tells me that pretty quickly that I'm going to run out of fuel. When am I going to run out of fuel? Can anyone tell me when I'm going to run out of fuel in this business? At what point? Just chuck it in the chat box for me, or question box.
Chat or Q&A, yep.
Tell me, when am I going to run out of fuel? Who wants to tell me? Here we go. June, yes, you're correct. So we're going to run out of fuel in June, right at the beginning of June, 7th of June. Yes, you've got it. So it pretty quickly tells you that, right? Now, this information comes from having a bit of a system behind how you manage your cash flow. Now, if we look down here, this gives us our cash out versus cash in trend. Doesn't really tell us a lot. It just tells us on some weeks we have a lot more cash going out than going in. Now, this information comes from these two down here. See these two different sheets down here. One is cash in and one is cash out. Now, it doesn't matter what page I'm on, I still get my graph. And I'm just going to zoom in to make it a bit bigger so you can see it better. Now, it tells you down here what to do. And if you've got this, it is locked, okay? So you can't add more columns in with this particular sheet. If you wanted more columns, it's easy enough to make your own spreadsheet. This is not a complex spreadsheet, relatively straightforward. But it is locked because otherwise people were, corrupting the formulas, and then we were spending all our life fixing Excel spreadsheets for people. But it is locked, which means that every 90 days you have to sort of put the new date in, delete four columns of data, copy and paste 4 columns down, and it will change again. I'll show you what I mean by that. But let's say this is the 12th of April, and all of these things in here are my main debtors. You can see this. So I've got some names in here. So these are the people that owe me money. So if I've got a big client that's called ABC Roof Tiling, they would go in there, or maybe it's an insurance company, company, type, company 1. Okay, so these are people that are paying me money. Okay, and so what I've got to do then is I've got to predict when that money is going to come in. So let's say, you know, I'm likely to get 1,000 here, 1,000 here, you know, 1,100 here. Then I put in what I think I'm going to get from each customer. Now, if you don't know who your customers are, well, then you've just got to put in a sales estimate or guess. Okay, and you just put a number in, right? You just put something in there. Now, what you do, once you've done all your cash in, is you go to your cash out and you do the same thing. This time, in the cash out column, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in the things like my fixed expenses. So things like rent, I've got wages and salary down here, maybe tax if I'm paying it, anything that I know I've got to pay. So any fixed expenses, suppliers, and then anything that may be an ad hoc thing that I have to pay, I could also put that in here. Same thing, I'm just putting the numbers in here. Now, once I enter, as you can see, these are all shaded blue. So once I enter all the details in the cash out and I enter all the details into the cash in, I end up with this summary, okay? And this summary tells me that I'm going to be in the red on the 7th of June. Now, with a stimulus package, so I've got here PAYG stimulus, I can put in here that at the end of April, I'm going to receive $10,000. Okay, let's say I'm benefiting from the Australian stimulus package. So I know I'm going to get $10,000 as a payment there. Well, you'll see straight away that puts my cash flow at ease, straight up. Okay, see how that's happened? But let's say it still had us in the red. So let me go back into cash out and we'll go to this expense here and we'll make this 5,000. We'll make this 5,000. And we'll make this 5,000. Okay, so I'll go back to the cash flow statement. You can see that once again at June, I'm in the red. You can see that by the end of July, I'm 7,600 in the red. I have a problem. Now, what I've got to try and do is I've got to try and make it so I don't have a problem. We've got to try and get rid of it. Now, you can see here that 7th of June, I have a negative, but then after that, it goes back into a positive. So I can actually move that problem forward a few weeks. Now, a few weeks is like getting a few extra kilometers out of the car before I have to refuel, right? It's like, you know, when you see your fuel gauge is getting low, but you know you want to try and get that a little bit further. Has anybody sort of backed off on the accelerator and driven a little bit more carefully? Have you ever done that? Okay, yeah. It's sort of like that, right? So we go, okay, well, I just need to work out how to get myself out of the red on the 7th of June. So here's how it works. Without changing the numbers, I'm just going to change what happens with the numbers. So if you remember, 7th of June is where I'm going to have that problem. I've got a $5,000 expense here. What I could do is I could ring the supplier who I've got a good relationship with, say, hey, it's Ben. I've been buying from you for a long time. I've got a little bit of a problem. I can't pay you the $5,000 next week. I can pay you the week after though. Is that okay? And that supplier says, oh, Gavin, thanks so much for ringing me, mate. Really appreciate you communicating. Sure. So we move it that 1 week later. Now you'll see what's happened is that problem has now gone from the 7th of June and I've bought myself a couple of weeks. See that? So that means now that I've got a couple more weeks to work out what I'm going to do, whether that's getting finance, collecting some more money, changing the cost structure of my business. I've got a couple more weeks to work it out. That's all I've done is bought a bit of time. I haven't fixed the problem. I've still got a negative here at the end of minus 7,600 and something. But with my available credit, I've now bought a little bit of time. Okay. So that gives me time maybe to get a bigger loan. I could go and do that. Okay, and if I was to do that, that puts me in the black by the end of the month. I'm still in the red without the loan, but you know, you can see that it would put me just in the green with the credit that was available. But let's say I didn't have a credit limit at all and I had to do something else. So I'm back in the red again on the 7th of June. So let's go to cash in for a second. And I go to somebody I have a really good relationship with, like my insurance company, and I go, is there any way I can get these two payments in earlier? So there's $1,300 there, $1,310. And they say, sure, we can give that to you here. So we go, all right, let's put that into there. Once again, if I go to my cash flow summary now, I'm not fixing the problem. I'm just giving myself more time to work it out. I don't know if you can see that, the effect of that. The 7th of June now is in the black. So now I can work on the 14th of June. I go, okay, well, I'm in the red 14th of June. What am I going to do? Same thing. I go to my cash and I go, oh, you know what? I wonder if I can get this person to pay a week earlier. So this client here, I talk to them. They go, yep, we can pay you a week earlier. So we put them in. This person maybe, same thing. We get them to pay you a week earlier. Once again, all I'm doing is moving the problem. So I'm I'm giving myself more time. You can see that didn't fix it. So I've got to now go to my cash out and go, okay, what have I got that I've got to pay? What can I delay? So this person here, I ring up and I say, can I pay that later? And they go, yep. I can't pay it for 2 weeks after that due date. Is that okay? They go, yep. Okay, now let's have a look at a cash flow. Now I've given myself to the 21st of June, still not fixing the problem, right? So now I need to start thinking, okay, well, I need to get rid of some costs. And this is where I go, all right, well, I need to probably get out of, I need to get out of this payment here. I can't do that anymore. I can't do that anymore. And I can't do that anymore. Okay, so you can see that as I do this, I'm going to reduce the problem. I'm not getting rid of it. I'm just reducing the problem at this stage. So I just got to keep doing that until I find a way out of the problem, or I work out how to get more money in. Maybe I create a diversify and I start selling other products or services, which we're seeing a lot of businesses do and doing really well. And we've got a plan that by the 7th of June, we're going to have a product that we get up and running that's going to bring in an additional $2,000 per week in cash flow. So we put that in there. Okay. Now if I go to my cash flow summary, I'm in the green, or in the black as they call it in accounting. Okay, so this is the benefit of having this forecast. And what I suggest is that every week, at the end of the week, so a Monday morning or a Friday afternoon, last thing, probably a Monday morning is a good idea, or even a Saturday morning if you've got time, is you sit down and you look at the actual numbers in your bank account and you make sure all these numbers are accurate. Same with the cash out. You go through and you make sure all the numbers that are in here are accurate to the dollar. Okay, so when you first do this, it's an estimate. When you get to the end of the week, you can put the actual numbers in. Once a few weeks have passed, then what you do is you just want to go up here to cash flow summary. You'll change the date. Let's say it's May now. I'm going to put in the 3rd of May. 3rd of May. Okay, which starts my week there. And then I'm going to go here and I'm going to take everything that was not relevant up to, so from the 3rd of May, which was this week here, I think, from memory. And then I can just copy and paste that over the top of that like that. Okay, and then I know that these ones here I'm going to have to delete and rejig. Okay. So all my correct numbers are there, and I do the same thing on my cash this side here. I get everything from the 3rd of May. I just highlight it all, Control C to copy it, paste it here, and then I get rid of this data here that's now no longer correct, unless it is, for example, things like wages and salaries. I'll just refill that in. This one here, I'm going to go, yep, 5,000, 5,000. I can just put those back in. And then I've got my next month in there. So I just keep putting these numbers in. So I've got everything that I need based on what I had in there before or what I need. If they're recurring payments, I can easily put them in. And now what's happened now is my cash flow forecast is going to take me out to the 26th of July. So when I look at my cash flow forecast at the end of July now, you can see I've got another problem. So every month, I just then forecast my next 90 days. Just keep deleting a month, adding a month, deleting a month, adding a month, because you only really need to know what's coming up for the next 90 days. So is there any questions about cash flow forecasting? Has anybody got any questions? And by the way that I recommend you use this tool, if you have more than 26 cash flow ins, is to group things. Like there might be cash FPOS machine. This might be client ABC, or you might group a group of clients, like all my good payers. So you know that, let's say that you grade them A, B, and C. All my A grade client payers, I'm going to put in here. And then if you put an A grade payer in here, their invoice, you might then just insert a comment. So put a new comment in here, and you go, this is ABC Proprietary Limited. Okay, so then or you can put in here, 454 for that person. 454 is for ABD, Proprietary Limited, bang. And then if I want to add somebody else to this cell, up here, I can just put equals 454 plus, let's say I've got another supplier that's going to pay me 500 that week. Then I do that, and I just put another comment in here, or I can edit this comment here, and I'll put, let me just get rid of that. Just deleted my comment. There we go. And I'll put in here 500 from BGB PL. Okay, save that. So now what happens when I hover over that, I can see who it is that actually owes me the money that particular week. But it means I've got them all grouped in here, and I can call this A grade payers. Now, the reason I would do that if I have to group people is I know that these people are probably going to pay on time, if I have C grade pays, I know they're ones that I may put them in here, but I'll probably, they didn't pay this week. So what I'm going to do with that, I'm going to have to move it to this week, and then I'm going to have to chase them, and so on and so on. Okay. So, by the way, you can't cut and paste. You've got to copy, delete and paste the way it works, unfortunately. Otherwise you delete the blue shading. Or you just enter it in manually if you're going to move it. So you just sort of manually put numbers in there. So that's sort of how that works. If you've got any questions about how the cash flow forecast works, you can feel free to ask me and I'll answer those. I've got a question here from Melissa. Has the government given any more info on the tenancy agreements for rent relief, as this is often the largest expense with wages? Not that I know of. All I know is there's a moratorium on evictions for residential tenancy, which means that your tenant, if they've lost their job due to the coronavirus, won't be able to be evicted. There's a lot of tenants right now that think that they can just not pay their rent now for 6 months and not get evicted. I believe the bill that was passed is that they have to have been affected by the coronavirus for that to apply. So if any tenants are thinking about not paying their rent just because of that ruling, but they've still got their jobs and still got income coming in, they're going to get into all sorts of strife. Anyway, any other questions?
Is anyone, just if you can just write into the Q&A for us, just who's feeling a little bit daunted by all this type of stuff, and we've obviously got uncertainty around the future, etc. And I just want to share with you is it's okay to feel daunted by this, and it's challenging, but look inside of it as a deeper way to learn some more about your business right now, even in this most difficult time. Because as we know, when we're going along in business and everything's traveling nicely, we tend to just go with the flow. But now we're going, well, hang on, this is getting pretty deep here, and where does it sit for me? So just, that's okay to be daunted by it, no problem at all, and it's okay to be a little bit uncomfortable. But if you can get a hold of this and you start to work with it and put some numbers in and play around with it, just remember, you're not going to break it. You just want to learn from it, and you might want to go back and sit down with your accountant and share it with him, and share it with a couple of key members in your team, and just start to delve into exactly what it is, the cash flow of my business given the current climate, working on a 90-day projection. This is one part of the business that you can work on as a 90-day projection, but then there's other parts of your business, and this is where Ben's company is extremely good and talented at working with companies on their 90-day plan. We work on that 90-day plan scenario, and we use specialized tools called Trello and a couple other things. But getting your head around it, but getting the help is a great thing. So I want everyone to just be comfortable to be uncomfortable. That's what I'd like to share with you.
It's where the magic happens, when you get uncomfortable. Now, Diane has asked, do you recommend calculating WIP each month with this tool? So yeah, well, so long as it makes sense to you. Okay, so this tool is simply just a tool. It's like anything. There's always more than one way to skin a cat. And I say to people, so long as it makes sense to you, all I want you to be able to do, Diane, is to have a clear picture of what you can expect to happen in the next 90 days from a cash flow point of view in your business. Because what's happening is, well, there's a couple of things happening. One is that people are panicking because sales are dropping, and they're not factoring in that they're going to get money from a stimulus package. Okay, and I think pretty much most countries, I'll say, has announced some sort of assistance for small business, some sort of. So there's an advantage to that. The other thing is they're not using a cash flow forecasting tool, so they're panicking before they actually know what the numbers look like. They're just panicking because there's a drop in revenue. And that's never good. And panic's not a good, I mean, look at what it's done to people in supermarkets with toilet paper, for goodness sakes, right? There was fight over toilet paper rolls. It's not necessary to panic, right? So what's better is to go in knowing what's happening. The other thing that's happening is we've seen people that have got plenty of money now because they've had a good run up until now. And they're just going, oh, well, I'll get through this. The problem is we don't know how long it's going to be. And if you have a look at the cash flow summary that's on screen right now, that business is fine until the end of the quarter, but it's definitely a downward trend. So you know, I ask you, if that was your business that wasn't going to go into the red until the last week of the 90 days, when would you want to know that? At the end of the 90 days or at the beginning of the 90 days? So really the whole idea behind this forecasting tool is to be able to empower you to know how to, or know when to make decisions and what decisions to make, know to ask the right questions, know when to go and, you know, because this business here, if you didn't have any finance organized, I can tell you right now that even though they've made it easier for us to borrow money during these times, it's still going to take weeks. So if you know you need 50 grand, you know, and that's going to get you out of trouble, you're still going to have to know, you know, that you need weeks in advance notice to go and borrow that money. And so what happens is businesses sometimes, because they're not doing this, they're not forewarned. And you've probably heard that saying, forewarned is to be forearmed. And to me, that really is what's important, is making sure you know what's coming. So if you want to put your work in progress in there, I probably would, because that's what I can expect in payments to come in the smash repair business. You know, if I know that I've got work in progress, I know that I've got to be paid for that yet. Well, that's going to be my cash coming in. Any other questions? And it can be about anything, by the way. I don't mind. I'm sure Gavin doesn't mind. We're here.
No, we don't mind at all. Yep, we're here to help. So if anyone's got any questions at all, yeah, fire them through to us, because that's what we're here for. And beauty is that from today, I certainly hope that you got something from today. That's how our intention is, just to share something with you. And we'll be doing more of these webinars as well. We've got some more lined up for next week. I've got a couple of guest speakers coming on for the next 3 weeks to talk about different things. For those of you that feel that you'd like to know more about your business and even more about what's going on from that perspective of you know, working with a business coach, which is something that I've always recommended out to all of my clients, because the business coach is basically the one that holds you accountable to get stuff done. So Ben's company, maxmyprofit.com.au, they're a great company that's helped lots of businesses across Australia in many different industries. So don't be afraid to reach out to Ben and his team. And we're here to help at Planning Plus Software as well. That's our intention. And we don't seem to have any more questions coming in, or nothing on the chat box there.
Oh, there's something from Trent.
Something from Trent. He's fired something up. Good on you, young Mr. Trent.
So let's answer that one quickly. Here we go. Trent says, we forecast on a monthly and weekly basis. Due to being on 30-day accounts, we know exactly what is going out for that period. For the second month or third month, would you estimate your expenses based on predicted budgeted expenses? Yes. That's all you can do, is that's why it's called a forecast. It's a bit like the weather, isn't it? They can tell you what they think it's going to be. It's not always exact though. So definitely need to be forecasting as close as you can get. And look, it's a bit tricky right now because a lot of us don't know what's going to happen in the coming months, but we've got to try and work out what it's going to be. And so you can look at past months. You can look at maybe if you've had a drop in the past month. And I always say with anything forecast, if it's cash in, I always forecast 10% less. If it's cash out, forecast 10% more. If you're just guessing, and that way you're going to be erring on the side of safety. All right. Hopefully that helps. Thanks, Mark.
Yeah, Mark Spitzkevich from iCar. Thanks very much for that feedback, Mark. Really appreciate that. Just wanted to ask: did anyone not get the link to the Cashflow tool? Just pop your name in there if you didn't. But Jenny made sure she sent everyone out an email with that link. So if you didn't get it, let us know and we'll make sure that we get one to you, but we're pretty sure we're covered off on everyone in that regard. And once again, we'll send you the recording of this one also. So that's another thing that we can do. So that's it. Thanks, team. Thanks to everyone. Ben, would you like to close off with any final comments?
You know what, I'll just say this one thing. Once again, thank you so much, Gavin, for holding this webinar. I know it's valuable for people to be able to get some information to help them. It's valuable for us to be able to do it as well, because for me, it helps us get an idea of what's going on out there. Here's the thing, what happens in any crisis, they've done a lot of studies on people's behaviours through crisis, and the first reaction is shock, and we've sort of been through shock now, and that's the good news for you as business owners, is that people have now moved on to the second stage, which is acceptance. So shock is first, then comes acceptance. And so acceptance is the part where people accept that this is the new norm for a while. And what that means is that they start to get on with getting on again. The challenge that's going to give us is, from a health point of view, people may be a little bit too complacent with their behaviour. So let's just hope that doesn't happen, because that's going to increase the spread again of the virus, and it's going to put people back into shock, because the government will have to make stricter changes. But I'm hoping people have learned enough now. So they're in that acceptance mode now, and now they're going to start adapting to what's happening. So all I can ask from you is that you stay steady. And that's something that I've been saying to everybody. It's one of my favourite sayings by a very famous, probably my most favourite mentor of all time was Jim Rohn. He's dead now, unfortunately, died in 2013, but did a lot of learning from this guy. And one of the things he said was, I'll be strong for you, you be strong for me, or you look after you for me and I'll look after me for you. And I think in times like this, that's what you have to do as a business leader, is you have to be strong for your team. You have to be strong for your suppliers. You have to be strong for your family. As much as it can be difficult, we will get through this. We're all in this together, and there is an end to this. We just don't know when it is. So do your best to hang on. And if you feel like you need help, reach out and ask somebody, because I think the worst thing you could do is to be sit and suffer on your own. Reach out, and even if you're, me or Gavin or anybody that your accountant, there are people that you can reach out. That I've had lots of calls from people who aren't even clients. I'm not going to turn them away. If they need help understanding, or working through a problem, I'll help them. So just stay strong for everybody else.
Thanks very much for that, Ben. I really appreciate that. Once again, you've come to the surface and given us some great information. So from myself also, I'd just like to say, it is difficult times. And I follow a guy by the name of Eckhart Tolle, who's really quite a spiritual guy, but I get a lot of learnings from him. And he works on 3 modalities of being. And those 3 modalities are quite simple. That it's the first one is acceptance, and then there's enjoyment, and then there's enthusiasm. So the modality that we're in at the moment is pretty much one of acceptance, as Ben has shared with us. So accept it and be with it, and don't try and overthink things. And then just keep coming back to it. Now, and one of the places that he looks for people to get to in relation to consciousness is when you stop thinking, because that's the space in between the thoughts. And that's a very, very powerful place to be. So I've worked on that quite often, and it's a good place to work from. So come back to your presence and come back to acceptance, but don't be complacent, as Ben said, but work through it and reach out, because we're all here to help each other. So on that note, I'll wind up. I'll thank all the participants, and we'll see you all next time on Planning Plus Software and our weekly webinars. Thanks very much. Bye for now. Bye, Ben. Thank you.
See you later. Thank you.